What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Spring 2024 report. This is the type of video where I like to go through everything that I watched this season, as well as take a look ahead at what's coming up in the next season. Spring 2024 for me was a packed season. I had 10 shows that I was juggling, all at varying degrees of enjoyability. There were some that I really didn't want to watch every week, and some that I couldn't wait to get my hands on. So, we're going to do like I always do and go from the bottom and go straight to the top. I hate to start this video out on such a low point, but we have to talk about Whisper Me a Love Song. If you remember back to the winter report, you'll remember that I showed off all of my Whisper Me a Love Song manga, and I just gushed about how much I love this series and how excited I was for the anime. But as the show went on and, episodes kept coming out, you started to notice that the animation was getting worse and the production quality just wasn't there. And I believe it was around week 6 or 7, we actually found out through some leaks that the artists were being drastically overworked and the production was just hell for everybody involved. The anime industry in Japan has been talked about a lot for not being very good to the artists and the animators and the workers. In fact, the whole work culture in Japan is very toxic. So this isn't that much of a shock. I mean, last year we heard this with MAPPA and JJK, but it still just isn't acceptable, especially since it's not really working. Like, at least with JJK, the episodes looked good, so people could, still make the argument that, it works. But here with Whisper Me a Love Song, the show didn't look good, and it's probably because the artists are being overworked and the production schedule is just way too tight. It is really heartbreaking and it really sucks to hear this news. And the anime just really seems doomed. It had a bunch of delays. Episodes 9 and 10 were delayed by weeks. And episodes 11 and 12, we don't even know if they're coming out yet. The show is being dropped on High Dive, and High Dive does this thing where it will tell you when every episode is coming out, and it will have all of the episodes on the service. But with Whisper Me a Love Song, it only has 10 episodes listed. 11 and 12 are just in the wind. So I don't know if it's going to be like Zom 100, where 11 and 12 will drop way later this year, or if we're even getting 11 and 12, or if they'll be Blu-ray exclusives. It just is really horrible to hear about all this, and I feel so bad for Eku Takeshima, the mangaka and creator of this series. I'm sure they were so excited and so looking forward to this anime coming out, and to hear that, the production is having this many issues and, the artists are being overworked, I'm sure that is not good news for them to hear, and all my love goes out to them, and I want to support them as best as I can. So, I'm going to urge you, if Whisper Me a Love Song overworking, and the studio, I should say, overworking its employees bugs you, you don't have to watch the anime. However, the story is really good, and it is still one of my favorite Yuris I have read. So, I urge you, if able, buy the manga officially and support the mangaka if you wish. You don't have to. I understand, everyone has financial differences, and maybe the manga isn't available in your region or, what have you, but it's available in English. There's 8 volumes out right now, and I urge you, check them out. The story's really good. Now, I have more to say about the show that doesn't have to do with the hell of production on the animation side. namely the voice actresses and the music being produced. We'll start with the voice actresses. I thought the voice actresses all did a great job. I was a little nervous about Shiho's voice actress because she didn't have any other roles listed on her voice actor profile or anything. So I was a little worried about her because Shiho is my favorite character in the manga, and I wanted to make sure that she was treated with the respect that she deserves. And I will say, Shiho's voice actress did a great job. And also, her singing is amazing. And that goes into my next topic that I wanted to talk about, the music. The music is pretty good. In fact, if you do decide to read the manga, go ahead and play the songs while you read the manga, because music manga always lacks the music because you can't hear it, but the music exists. You can go look it up. By the way, speaking of music, how's the OP? It's good. How are the EDs? ED1. It's okay. ED2. This is actually the song that Lorelai performs for the auditions right after SS Girls does their audition. And that part in episode 7 is amazing. Shiho does such a good job in that song, or rather, her voice actress does such a good job on that song. And it is amazing to listen to. And they even made it the ED for a couple of the episodes. But it's the only Lorelai song that they made, so it is a little overplayed with it being the ED for 2 episodes, the song they play in episode 7, and they actually play it a 4th time, so it gets a little boring after a while. Alright, we're done talking about Whisper, and the reason why I put it at the beginning wasn't because it's my least favorite anime this season. I just didn't really want to group it in with the other ones. Like I said at the top, normally rank these from the thing I like the least to the thing I like the best. But I put Whisper at the beginning because I don't even know if it's done yet. So, I just put it by itself. Think of it as hanging out in purgatory right now. But now we are actually going to get into the show I liked the least of this season, and it's actually one that I forgot to mention in the last report that I did, and it's one that I was really excited to watch. Let's talk about Sentai Dashikaku, or Go-Go Loser Ranger. I am actually a huge Power Rangers fan. I watched Power Rangers all the way up until I was 13, and I watched so much in my day. And so I'm a bit of a Power Rangers connoisseur. And Go-Go Loser Ranger is written by Naoki Haruba, who also did Quintessential Quintuplets. And you know about my feelings on that series. And even if I don't love the ending, I still love the rest of it. So, a series written by a writer whose writing I enjoy, and a series that spoofs a genre that I also am a huge fan of. This is a recipe for something amazing. But Go-Go Loser Ranger wasn't what I wanted it to be. Go-Go Loser Ranger sets itself up as a subversion of Power Rangers and the tokusatsu genre as a whole. Now, it definitely does that in the beginning. The Power Rangers are actually the bad guys, and the monsters, or the fighters, which are the putties from the Mighty Morphin era, are the good guys, quote unquote. The problem that I really had with Loser Ranger was that it doesn't really focus a lot on the Power Ranger or Super Sentai elements. Sure, the Rangers are there, the fighters are there, but there's not a single Zord. And since the boss monsters aren't around, at least in the beginning, you sort of lose a lot of the big tropes that Power Rangers is all about. And then once you introduce the whole Ranger Corps, and there's a lot of young junior Rangers, these little minions and all that, it just kind of stops being Power Rangers. I understand why we had to do this. If there's only 5 bad guys, that stops being interesting. You either get rid of the bad guys very quickly or you chase them forever, and, that could get stale. So I understand why we had to flesh out the Ranger teams, but it really, really gets away from what Power Rangers was. So the way that I look at it is that it's not so much a subversion or spoof of Power Rangers. It's a typical shonen manga, but it's set in like the tokusatsu genre. Kind of like how One Piece is about pirates. Like, sure, they're on the water, they're raiding things, but like, is it really about pirates? Like, if you really think about it, it's about a lot of other things. It's about freedom. It's about treasure. It's about feelings in your heart. That's what One Piece is about. It's not about scurvy and like looting and getting drunk, which, are things that you would typically think when it comes to pirates. So that's how I look at Go Go Loser Ranger, which isn't bad, but since I'm a huge Power Ranger fan, I wanted a subversion on the Power Ranger trope. I wanted all the fun Power Ranger stuff to be there, and I wanted all of these references to happen, and those references aren't happening, and what we get is like a spy story. One of the things that I actually do like about Loser Ranger is the espionage element, with Fighter D infiltrating the Rangers and doing work from the inside. And there are a lot of other characters who are on the inside as well. And I think if we focused heavily on these elements and kind of, didn't make it about Power Rangers, I think the show would be way better. But that's not the only positive I have to say, because how's the OP? This OP is a banger. How are the EDs? Also a banger. Go Go Loser Ranger was a bit of a letdown for me, and that might have had to do because of my own personal hype. But the next show we're going to talk about had a lot of outside hype, and I had a few problems with it as well. Let's talk about Kaiju number 8. Kaiju number 8 is good, but it's not really my thing. I'm more of a romance guy, and I'm trying to watch more shonens, hence me watching Kaiju number 8. And even though it is good and not my thing, I still have a few valid criticisms of it. For starters, I have some problems with the premise, at least how it revolves around Kafka. When we first meet Kafka, he's a sanitation worker. He breaks down the kaiju bodies and sends them off, and, he's kind of like a garbage man. But he wants to be part of the Defense Force, and I really love that drive that he has. And he actually proves himself to be pretty worthwhile with his knowledge on kaiju bodies. And I really love that about him. And I wish the show leaned into it more. Sure, it does lean into it, but Kafka is Chainsaw Man. Well, not literally Chainsaw Man, but he's like Chainsaw Man. He's Kaiju Man. He can turn into a kaiju, and he's overpowered as hell. Kaiju number 8 does this thing where it wants Kafka to be the weakest character in the show and the strongest character. And I find that super duper frustrating. Fights will typically start with Kafka being in his normal Defense Force getup, trying to shoot enemies and having a 0.01% like affinity with his suit. I really don't know what that means, but he's really weak. So he'll start really weak, and then as the fight will progress, he will show off his knowledge and be like, oh, I know a thing about this thing, like, here's the weak spot, da da da. and it shows that he's capable because he's smart. Well, then something will happen and the fight will get really, really difficult, and then the others who are stronger than Kafka can't handle it. So then Kafka will have to turn into his kaiju form, and then he'll get OP as hell and beat the problem really quickly. Now, my problem with this is that if Kafka was just allowed to be kaiju number 8 the whole time, there wouldn't be any suspense. Like, why can't Kafka just be kaiju number 8? Like, I understand story-wise, if he, like, became a kaiju, they'd kidnap him, they'd try to turn him into a weapon, blah, blah, blah. But, like, just don't write that into the story. Like, actually make it like Chainsaw Man, where he joins the Force, and then he becomes, the hybrid thing of the thing they're trying to fight and himself, and just whoop butt. Like, you can do this. Chainsaw Man did it. Why can't Kafka do it? Or make it so that he's not overpowered, or that make him like Deku from My Hero, where he has the potential to be overpowered, he just can't control his powers. Like, if he goes full kaiju, he'll go on a rampage. Like, make it so that he has to train with his powers. Don't make it to where it's like, oh, I can't be a kaiju right now, I'm super weak. Okay, I can be a kaiju now. Now I'm the strongest character in the show. All of a sudden, even though I don't train with my powers. It's like kaiju number 8 wants to have its cake and eat it too, where it wants to tell a story about Kafka proving himself and having hard work, but it also wants to tell a story where he's a badass and can solve every problem. You really can't have both, because there is a bit of a disconnect. Maybe I'm just looking at this too much. Maybe this isn't a problem for other people. Maybe the show is able to justify it enough, but I just really didn't like that. Another negative that I had about the show is that in the beginning, there was a lot of humorous elements, and I didn't really like the humor. Like, a lot of the humor in the beginning was, oh, he's a kaiju and he's acting like himself. That's funny, right? And I just didn't think that was funny at all. The humor does kind of drop as the series progresses and it gets more serious, so I kind of forgot about that until I started trying to think up things I didn't like about the show, and then I remembered that I didn't like the humor. So that's something that's there. But for all those negative things that I said, there are some positives. I think the relationship between Kafka and the head captain of the Kaiju Force, I am blanking on her name. I think it's like Ashido. I really like their dynamic. I love that Ashido still seems to like Kafka, even if he did kind of give up and abandon her. And I like that Kafka is still trying to prove himself to her. I really like their dynamic, and I do really want to see more. I also like the character of Shinomiya. I think she's really cute. I love how strong she is. I love her badass battle axe. Like, when she busts that thing out for the first time, it's a really, really dope moment. So, I like a lot of the female characters on the show. Hey, look, the waifu guy likes the female characters in the show. What a shocker. And since we're talking about positives, how's the OP? This OP was a bit of a gamble, and it didn't quite work out for me, but I think some people might have liked it. How's the ED? I think that the ED was also a gamble, but this one paid off. I love that it's a One Republic song. Like, it's a good song, but why? Kaiju number 8 definitely grew on me as the weeks went on, and I enjoyed it way more at the ending than I did at the beginning. And the same is to be said about the next show we're going to talk about, which is Sound Euphonium Season 3. So, I have previously watched Seasons 1 and 2 of the anime, and I thought that was enough, but turns out there are several Sound Euphonium movies in between Seasons 2 and 3 that I just didn't watch. I didn't, miss a ton of stuff. I'm not confused about what's going on, but I will say that if you do want to watch season 3 of Sound Euphonium, there are some movies that you'll have to dig up. I don't think the movies are on Crunchyroll, or at least I didn't see them on there. So go try to dig those up. That being said, season 3 is a lot more of the same. You have Kumiko and Reina, who really, really, really want to kiss, being in band together, and the whole story revolves around them trying to get to nationals and get gold in nationals. This time around, Kumiko is actually the president of the band, and Boner Boy, her male friend who kind of has a crush on her, shame she's a lesbian, is the vice president, and Kumiko's totally girlfriend, Reina, is the drum major. So these three are now in charge of the band, and it deals with the struggles that they have, and as well as the politics within the band, because there's a new girl on Euphonium named Mayu who high school me would have totally had a crush on. I mean, just look at that ponytail. Look at it. That's amazing. But Mayu is a new girl who is a third year who just transferred in, and she also plays Euphonium just like Kumiko. And there's a little bit of drama because Mayu seems to be just as good, if not better, than Kumiko. And there's a soli that Reina and Kumiko want to play together. And Kitauji decided, I had to remember the name of the school, Kitauji decided that they were going to do auditions before every performance to see who would play in that performance. So this means that Kumiko has to constantly try out to get this soli, and she's going up against Mayu. So there's a lot of drama with that. And the ending of this story that happens in episode 12 made me cry. Honestly, I was a little nonplussed with this season. I wasn't hating it, but I wasn't that excited to watch the episodes every day. But once episode 12 hit, once that all started shaking down with the soli, I was hooked. I was crying. I was screaming. It's amazing to watch. And I think it honestly makes this season worth it for me. That's why it's at this spot above Kaiju number 8 and Go Go Loser Ranger. Specifically because of the ending. And I also really love this show because when I was in high school, I was in band, and this show just reminds me of those days, and it makes me really nostalgic. So, if you were in band in high school, or if you are in band in high school right now and you haven't seen Sound Euphonium, take a look at this show. It'll make you nostalgic or, make you see yourself in the show. I also want to give props to Tomoyo Kurosawa, who is the VA for Kumiko. She does an amazing job at Kumiko. Since Kumiko is the president, she has a lot of speeches and a lot of moments where she has to speak very impassionately. Kurosawa does a great job at delivering all of these lines. I have to give her flowers for this performance because she helps make this show. She's also in Go Go Loser Ranger, and she does one of the sussest things in that show. Seriously. That's the noise you had to make? That's what you decided to do? Okay. How's the OP? It's fine. How's the ED? It's fine. So, Sound Euphonium is a very straightforward show that no one should have any problems with, other than the fact that Kumiko and Reina don't kiss, because seriously, they should. But this next show is a little bit more problematic. Time to talk about Mushoku Tensei again. This is the second time I'm bringing up Mushoku Tensei in a report, and every time it happens, I dread it. Whenever this season gets brought up, or whenever I think about it, or whenever I want to talk about it, I dread people showing up and just bickering about it and saying about how bad it is and how, harmful it is and how much Rudy sucks and blah, 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 blah. I really don't want to get into all of that in this video. I talked about it the last time I talked about Mushoku Tensei, where I just don't want to get into all that. Mind you, I am part of the problem because I did watch it and I am still bringing it up. But we're just going to take everything at face value and try not to get into the morality of everything, which is a little hard because there was some bonkers thing that happened this season. It was wild. When it comes to me and Mushoku Tensei, my favorite part is the adventuring element and the world building. The best part of this series for me is when Rudy is exploring the Demon Continent with Ruijerd and Eris. And there was a little bit of adventuring in the latter part of this core, but the beginning part was very slice of lifey, which, mind you, I do like slice of lifes, but I just don't love it when it comes to this show. The beginning of this core wasn't bad, but it just wasn't what I want out of Mushoku Tensei. What I want out of Mushoku Tensei is some of the stuff that happens later in the core, where Rudy is going out and adventuring in the labyrinth and all the other stuff that they were doing. Mind you, there's not a lot of adventuring, but there is some, and there's also some really strong emotional moments. Also some really strong, emotionally manipulative moments, but we're not going to get into that because spoilers. Honestly, this core was more Mushoku Tensei. I mean, it was what you would expect. If you watched this part and anything you saw surprised you, what have you been watching for the past couple years? How's the OP? It's okay. How's the ED? It's fine. Mushoku Tensei definitely had a lot of people talking. But this next show, I saw barely anyone talk about. And that is the joys of voice actor radio. Voice actor radio is kind of a GL anime, we'll get to that in a second, about two voice actresses who are in high school. And they find out that they are in the same class together. And they end up hosting a podcast. They keep calling it a radio show, but I'm going to call it a podcast, where they just talk about everyday life. And they hate each other, but they have to have this podcast anyway. And the show talks about being a voice actress, and it talks about a lot of the stuff in the industry. It kind of has some Oshinoko elements, with the whole point of that they have their outward persona, and then they have like their real internal selves. And then it also has a lot of elements of Girlish Number, if anyone knows of what that show is. Girlish Number was written by Wataru Watari, the same person who wrote Origairu. That's why I watched the show. And it's about voice actresses too. And the main voice actress girl is bad at her job, and it's just about her dealing with being bad and trying to get better. And it's a really boring show. Like, I don't like Girlish Number at all. But if you're like me and you watch Girlish Number and you didn't really enjoy it, you should probably watch The Joys of Voice Actor Radio, because it does a lot of the same stuff that Girlish Number does, but better. And in less time. That whole plot is about like 2 or 3 episodes long, and Girlish Number takes the full 12 to deal with that. So that's a positive too. I keep saying that this is a GL anime, but there's not a lot of GL moments. Sure, there's the bath scene, which is way more graphic than any other Yuri I've seen. Heck, the show even says that itself. But it is there, but there's not a lot of like flirty moments between the two. So if you're going in looking for a Yuri, maybe don't look at this. I mean, hell, Sound Euphonium isn't a Yuri, and there's way more chemistry between Kumiko and Reina than there is between the main two in voice actor radio. I have too many shows I'm thinking about. But speaking of voice actresses, my favorite voice actress, Nao Toyama, plays in this show. She actually plays a character that's way different than all of the other characters she plays. Nao Toyama has a very bubbly, distinct voice. And normally she plays really energetic, bubbly, kind of bratty characters, like Ruka off of Rent a Girlfriend, Yui Yuigahama from Origairu, Ichinose from Classroom of the Elite, Tomoe Koga from Bunny Girl Senpai. Just a lot of very high energy, kind of peppy, happy go lucky characters. But in this, the character she plays is honestly kind of bitchy. She's pretty mean to the main two when she's introduced. She lays into them a whole lot. And it was really fun to see Nao Toyama dig into like a different part of her range that we don't really see her exercise all that often. So props to her. She did a great job playing this character in a different way than she normally plays her characters. And of course, we have to ask the question, how's the OP? It's okay. How's the ED? It's also okay. The Joys of Voice Actor Radio is a very cute show, and I think you should go check it out. Give it a try. In fact, I also think you should give the next show we're thinking about a try. And the next show is Gods' Game We Play. Yes, it's Gods' Game because the apostrophe is after the S. I know, it's clunky. Get over it. This one is way higher than I expected it to be, especially since I didn't even bother bringing it up in the winter report. I just missed it on my anime list because I had so many shows I was trying to watch this season that I just overlooked it. But this one was actually pretty enjoyable to watch week to week. Gods' Game We Play is set in a world where there are a bunch of gods and they have these games that they're trying to get humans to play with their special powers. And if humanity is able to beat 10 games, they will get whatever wish they want from the gods. Our main character in Gods' Game We Play is Faye. Faye is super smart and really good at games. At a young age, he learned from this red-haired girl who suspiciously looks like the main girl Leishay, but who knows? And because he learned from this red-haired girl, he has a deep love for games. And so does Leishay, who again weirdly looks like the red-haired girl from the flashbacks, but Leishay is a god who is now in the human world, and her and Faye just have a really fun time playing all these games. And I think the neat part about Gods' Game We Play is the games. The games are all based on real games, and the rules are pretty intuitive, but there is a slight twist to all of them. And they all are sort of like puzzles, but the puzzles aren't impossible to solve. Like, it's not like there's some BS rule that Faye kind of implements to solve all the problems. You can actually come up with all of the solutions that Faye does by yourself. And the puzzles aren't super baby easy either. So if you do figure it out, you actually might feel accomplished in that. And the games are actually all really fun to look at. The game that Faye and Pearl play against Dax and that one girl is really cool to look at and was reminding me of like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Bakugan or like watching one of those shows when I was a kid. In fact, the whole show kind of reminded me of that. Each episode has a different game that is played, and I feel like that gives this show a really nice weekly Saturday morning kind of feel to it, where it's not meant to be binged, it's meant to be watched in small bursts 1 week at a time. So if you do decide to watch this show, let me know in the comments how it is binging it, because I thought it was really fun watching it week to week, but maybe it gets a little bit repetitive when you watch them all back to back. Let me know. We'll give a slight warning, I guess, because the show is an ecchi, or at least it's labeled as an ecchi, it's really not that bad. Like, both in comparison and also, like, in the things that it does. Like, it shows a little cleavage here and there. Maybe it shows a little thigh. It's honestly kind of bog standard. Like, I don't think you're gonna be like, oh, here we go, another one of these if you watch it. Episode 1 might trick you a little bit, but as it continues on, it's not that bad. And also, the main character, Faye, is not pervy at all. The etchy moments don't come from him. It comes from slight fan service with the girls. But there isn't a lot of that. Like, I'd say it's like once every other episode or once every couple of episodes. It shouldn't be too much of a turnoff. And how's the OP? This OP is honestly a banger. How's the ED? It's okay. Gods' game we play definitely came out of left field for me. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did, and it ended up in the number 4 spot. Just like the show that's in the number 3 spot. Because I'm giving it the number 3 spot, but I have so many mixed feelings about it. Let's talk about a condition called love. This one sent me on a roller coaster. The show has been living rent-free in my head. I'm constantly thinking about it. I was always there, always watching it on Thursday, the day it came out. I never missed it. I was dreading it, and I was excited about it. I was there, and man, some days I hated it, but some days I enjoyed it. Condition called love made my blood boil, but it also made my heart soar. There were good moments, there were bad moments, and I'm reading the goddamn manga. Somebody stop me. But what is with all this drama around condition called love? Why do I hate it? Why do I love it? Well, it all has to do with the main boy, Hananoi. A condition called love is about our main girl, Hotaru, who witnesses our main boy, Hananoi, getting dumped by his girlfriend. And then she sees him sitting out in the snow, depressed. And then Hotaru walks up to him and gives him her umbrella. And then the next day at school, Hananoi walks right up into her classroom and asks her out. The romance between Hananoi and Hotaru is really sweet and really cute. But a little bit in the beginning, and as the series progresses, Hananoi looks very, very, very obsessive towards Hotaru. Hananoi honestly gives off some serial killer vibes. It's bad news bears with this guy at some moments. There are a ton of red flags that he is giving off. And honestly, the show doesn't seem like it sees this as much. And right from the get, I started not liking the show because I felt like it was validating Hananoi and saying that all of these red flags that he had, all of this obsessiveness that he had towards Hotaru was a good thing. But that's not the case. Hananoi seems very toxic. But as the show progressed and as I read the manga, I realized and noticed that Hananoi is a little misunderstood, and he's also young. A condition called love deals with young love in a very real sort of way. When you're a kid, you don't understand love all that much. I mean, you haven't been alive that long, so all of these feelings are starting to bubble up. You don't quite understand how it all works. You might say some things that you don't really mean, and honestly, Hananoi isn't being completely honest at every time when he speaks in the show. So, Hananoi is a little misunderstood, and that's what they're going for. But I don't stand by everything that he does. This man is like, Hotaru, I won't touch you unless I get permission. And then he proceeds to touch her without getting permission several other times throughout the show. So that was a fucking lie. Condition Called Love definitely got better as the series progressed, and episode 12 was honestly really good. I just have to admit that. And I do really want to see where this series goes. I hate that it's hooked me. It's just like Rent a Girlfriend when season 1 ended, and I went into the manga, and I've been reading it for the past 3.5 years, and we're doing it again with A Condition Called Love. Hopefully this doesn't last for another 3 years. And to put a button on this show, how's the OP? It's a banger. How's the ED? It's okay. I really did not want to like A Condition Called Love when I was watching it, and I begrudgingly put it up as high as it did. But there was one show that I knew I had to put high up on the list right when I watched episode 1. And it's a show that I didn't even have on my radar when I did the winter report. And that is Jellyfish Can't Swim Alone at Night. This show is fantastic. It's about 4 high school girls who are all gifted in different ways. There's one who's good at art, one who's good at singing, one who's good at piano, one who's a VTuber. I don't know any of the names. Excuse me. It's about these girls making a group called Jelly and making videos together and building an audience and having fun. And it's a really nice coming of age story with these girls discovering their talents and enjoying their talents and making some beautiful music together. It's really sweet, really wholesome, and there's even some Yuri elements. This season had a ton of musical Yuri shows. Hell, Voice Actor Radio even had singing in it. And the music was all really good. All of the songs were produced really well and sound really good. Speaking of, how's the OP? It was good. And how are the EDs? ED1, it's good. ED2, this one pumps. ED3, it's okay. ED4, it's good. The show is very emotional, and I was crying a whole lot at the end. I cannot recommend it enough, and sorry that I'm not talking about it a whole lot. I really don't want to spoil too much about it, but the relationships between all of the girls are really nice. It's a nice coming-of-age story, and it's got to do a lot with being creative. So if you're a creative type, kind of like me with the whole YouTube thing, I think that you will relate a lot to the story and the characters. So this one definitely has my seal of approval. You know what else has my seal of approval? The next show we're talking about, which I, in the winter report, thought was going to be awful, but it's my favorite show this season, and it's called Vampire Dormitory. Okay, so the fact that this is number 1 is a little bit of a meme, but I don't care. I had so much fun watching this. I could not wait every week to sit down and watch a new episode of Vampire Dormitory. This one rocks. Vampire Dormitory is a combination of Ouran High School Host Club and Vampire Night. That just triggered a whole slew of my female audience. You're welcome. Vampire Dormitory is about this character, Mito, who dresses like a boy but is actually a girl. And she's about to jump off a bridge until a vampire, Ruka, rescues her. Now, the thing about humans in this world is that to vampires, the female blood tastes a lot better than male blood. So when Ruka sucks Mito's blood, he thinks it's a boy because the blood tastes so bad. But another thing is that if you don't know love, your blood will taste bad. That's kind of why female blood tastes good, because women get all the love and men don't. Kinda real, a little too real. But the reason why Ruka actually was attracted to Mito in the first place is because she's very pretty but looks like a boy. And Ruka is a huge otaku, so he doesn't like 3D girls. I feel attacked, specifically with one line that Ruka says where he goes, I'm into anime. I don't know how to talk to women. He's just like me, for real, for real. I don't know what to say. Now, there is a ton of drama in this show, which comes in the form of Red, who is a Dampier who is also after the heart of Mito. Again, he thinks this is a dude. This show is gay as hell. So the cross-dressing element is where I get the Oron comparison, and the fact that it's about vampires, and there's two vampires, one being a Dampier and one being a full-blooded vampire, is where I'm getting the Vampire Knight comparison. 14-year-old me is screaming, and he's probably the reason why I enjoyed this show as much as I did. The show did start losing me a little bit near the end, but I got right back in, and I really enjoyed the ending of the anime. I honestly loved this show from beginning to end. I really like it. I might show it to people, and I do recommend it. Like, give it a watch. This show is wild. And if you do like Oron and Vampire Knight, give this one a watch. It's a contemporary version of both of those, just combined. And how's the OP? This is the best OP of the season. This slaps. How's the ED? It's fine. And that was everything I watched this season. That was a lot. I mean, I did have 10 shows to go through. So, how many am I watching next season? 14. I am watching 14 anime in the summer. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna try to blitz through the summer shows because there is 14 that I'm gonna talk about, and I don't know a whole lot about them, and I'm just gonna go down the list as the most popular as listed on my anime list. Starting with Season 2 of Oshinoko. Everyone should know, if you've seen my videos, that I love Oshinoko. And I'm actually reading the manga for this one. And I've watched the trailer for Season 2, and it looks amazing. I am not worried about this one at all. The animation looks stellar. I know the story in this part is really good. And the opening was played in the trailer, and it rips! I am super excited to watch this one. Definitely gonna be my anime of the season, if not my anime of the year. But Oshinoko does have some competition, because Alia sometimes hides her feeling in Russian, or Roshidere as it's often called, seems like a show that I am going to love. I've seen a lot of people talking about this show, and it seems like something that's right up my alley. Also, it has Dere in the title, so I legally have to watch it. But upon watching the trailer, I gotta say, Alia is so cute. I haven't even watched the show, and I'm already in love. Her whole shtick of being super outwardly mean, but under her breath, saying all these sweet, cute things in Russian is so precious to me. And the fact that the main boy speaks Russian and understands what she's saying is amazingly funny. I am so ready for this one. I cannot wait. Is actually a show that's already out right now. It's the Suicide Squad Isekai. Now, even though it is out and you can watch it right now, I haven't seen it. That's not the point of this video. The point of the video is I'm supposed to give predictions for the summer shows and talk about the spring shows. And if I've already seen one of the summer shows, I can't make predictions about it because I've already seen it. So I have held off on watching it, and I'll watch it later, and I'll talk about it in 3 months, despite watching it like in an hour. I'm watching this one because I literally made a video about comic books becoming anime a month ago. So this is like right up my alley, even though I'm a little worried about how it's going to be handled. I mean, the Suicide Squad being put into a normal fantasy isekai world sounds like a crazy idea, but I don't know how it's going to get executed. Looking at the trailer, it seems like there's going to be some Yuri elements between Harley Quinn and the princess because Harley Quinn's bisexual, so that looks like it's going to be fun. But the thing that I'm actually the most excited for about this show has like nothing to do with the comic book aspect or anything having to do with like the anime itself. It has to do with the fact that the ED is sung by frickin' Mori Calliope? What? I am so happy for Callie. She deserves this. She deserves all the goodwill. I love that she's getting a song in an anime. If One Republic can get an anime ED, surely Callie should get like 20. I mean, come on. That's all I have to say about Suicide Squad Isekai. Now we're going to move to a show that looks like it's going to be less popular, and that is Days with My Stepsister. Now, I haven't talked about this a lot, but I have alluded to it a little bit. I actually have seen a ton of incest anime. That's probably not shocking to anyone who's seen my videos, but I thought I'd just come out and say it. So, this show, weirdly enough, is right up my alley. The one thing that concerns me about this one is that it was announced all the way back in July 2022. So, this one seems like it's just been plagued with delays and problems. So, that's got me a little bit concerned. If you can't tell, Whisper Me a Love Song has given me trust issues, and I took a look at every studio that was making all of these anime that are coming out next season, and I looked at when they got announced to see if there might be any problems, and this one was giving me some red flags. But when it comes to the story, this looks pretty earnest and straightforward, and it doesn't look like it'll be super ecchi, but I know a lot of people are going to complain about it because of the whole stepsister word being in the title. Next is My Dear Friend Nokotan. This one is a meme. I'm watching it because it's a meme, but it looks funny as hell. This is modern Nichijou. Like, this looks absurd. Look at the 3D deer! The 3 deer! Come on, the jokes write themselves! Despite it being a meme, I feel like I'm going to enjoy this show, and I think all the people who are going to watch it because of the whole meme surrounding the song are still gonna find it funny, and we might see this anime shoot up in the Mal ratings, or at least be everywhere on the internet for a good while. Next season is going to be filled with a ton of harems. I love harems, so I am really excited for all of these shows. And the first harem show that we're going to be talking about is Gigi Harem, which translates to pseudo harem. This show looks really interesting. There's only one girl, but she creates a whole harem with her acting skills. I find that super funny. Like, I love when tropes are played around with. When we look at 100 Girlfriends, we play around with the fact that, why stop at 5 girls? Why not go to 100? When it comes to quintessential quintuplets, why not make the whole show about trying to figure out who the winning girl is? With this one, it's like, why do we need 5 girls? Why not just one who has DID? My one concern is that I'm pretty sure this was supposed to come out last season, so it did get delayed, And the studio that's making it is a small one, so maybe there is room to be concerned for this one, but, I think only time will tell on it. Next is 2.5 Dimensional Seduction. 2.5? 2.5? Now, I've heard a lot about this show, and the main consensus online seems to be that it is a ripoff of My Dress Up Darling. And after watching the trailer, I think that this looks like a ripoff of My Dress Up Darling. Strangely enough, this one looks more otaku focused than My Dress Up Darling. My Dress Up Darling looked like it was generally cosplay focused, and Gojo wasn't an otaku. But the main boy here looks like a mega otaku, just like someone else we all know. And also on top of that, the main girl who is the cosplayer, or we can call her Marin 2.0, or hold on, we can call her Marin 2.5, is also an otaku and the one doing the cosplay. So, very similar to My Dress Up Darling, but with some fundamental differences. Speaking of shows that are ripoffs of other ones, the next show is Cafe Terrace Season 2. Now, I've also read the manga for this one, just like with Oshinoko, but I'm less excited about this show. The manga for Cafe Terrace hasn't been that great as of late, and I've kind of been burnt out on the series, but the part of the manga that we're adapting is actually pretty good, and I did enjoy it when I was reading it. The one thing about the anime that just keeps getting brought up in my head, the ripoffs of the main girls, like the villain cafe maids, all of their hair color is just not what I thought it was going to be. Like, why is the pigtail girl, why does she have green hair? Why does the ponytail girl have orange hair? Like, I don't understand. I wasn't expecting any of their hair colors to be what they are. That's it. That's all I have to say. I'm probably still going to enjoy this show. It's a good turn your brain off harem. Throw it on the pile of harems that I'm watching this year. Next is Shoshimin, How to Become Ordinary. This one looks interesting. It is actually written by the same guy who wrote Hyoka. Hyoka is a show that I hold really dear to my heart, and I'm really excited to see this one. Now, since it's written by the same guy who did Hyoka, it can either be on the same level as Hyoka, or it could just be Hyoka Point 2. Now, it looks very similar to Hyoka, but I don't know any of the themes. I didn't really look at any of the genres that it has, but this one might not have any of the mystery elements that Hyoka did. It might be a lot about coming of age, so I think this one isn't going to be super similar to Hyoka, which is all I can ask of it. I just want it to be as good without treading some of the same ground. I definitely think I'm going to get sucked up into this one, and I definitely expect some good things out of it. Next is Senpai is an Otokonoko. This is about a boy who cross-dresses, and I'm interested to see how they handle this. Japan doesn't really handle, LGBT media, all that well. I mean, when you look at something like I'm in Love with the Villainess, I praise that show for saying the word gay. I mean, I've seen tons of shows where girls kiss. I've read tons of manga where girls actively had sex, and I've never read the word gay other than in that anime right there. So, I'm very intrigued to see how they handle the whole cross-dressing element. It'll kind of be like in Vampire Dormitory, where they don't really make it the whole point of the show, and they don't really try to make it about the trans experience. So, if you're looking for something that has that, maybe this show won't be that, but if it is about that, I will make sure to let you know when the next report comes out. So, make sure you're subscribed so you see when it comes out. Next is Makaine, Too Many Losing Heroines. Here is another harem to be thrown on the pile. This one is about a lot of different girls who are all rejected by various guys, and a boy who ends up meeting them all and befriending them. Again, I love interesting premises for harems, and this is another one. And I've seen a lot about this one on Twitter, so I'm actually really excited for this one. And it's made by A1, so it's gonna end up looking great. Next is Love is Indivisible by Twins. This is a romance featuring some twins, and thank you for not making this an incest. It looked like it might have been incest, but it's not. They're just childhood best friends. Thank you. I know that probably took a lot of restraint. This one looks alright. I'm not expecting much out of this, but then again, I wasn't expecting much out of Vampire Dormitory, and it was my favorite show this season, so hey, maybe this one will shock me. Next is VTuber Legend, How I Became Viral After Forgetting to Turn Off My Stream. Now, I love VTubers. I talked about Callie earlier, and this is a show about a VTuber who forgets to turn off her stream, and she just gets really belligerently drunk, and everyone can hear her, and she becomes super famous over it. I'm going to love this one because it's about, VTubing and YouTube and content creation, and if you didn't know, I do this. So it's going to be really fun, and I hope they make it really about being a VTuber and they really look into that industry a whole lot because there's a lot to unpack there. And one of the really fun things it seemed like the show did was actually have footage of VTuber models in the show. Like they had a VTuber stream somewhere, they have a chat, and then they OBS'd that instead of animating a fake VTuber model. So that's some really good production quality, and it just does it's like a mixed media kind of thing. So that really looked really fun, and I hope they do that a whole lot throughout the anime. And finally, the last show I'm going to be watching in summer is Mayonaka Punch. The synopsis on Mao is super vague. It literally just says, this show is about YouTubers who make videos on YouTube. So I watched the trailer, and when I watched the trailer, I got the feeling that this was a show about monster girls, and then I looked at the genre and the theme, and it said supernatural and vampire. So it looks like this show is going to be about monster girls who are YouTubers. That just sounds fun and wacky. So we'll see what this one ends up being like. So that is it for the spring 2024 report. Let me know what you guys thought and let me know what you guys watched. Tell me if I missed anything, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next report. Leave a like, and with that, sayonara.